Imagine dropping a billionaire heiress from a paraglider straight into a highly fortified North Korean military zone.
Right.
Now imagine taking the exact same mathematical formula that explains her survival and using it to program the guardrails of an artificial superintelligence.
That sounds crazy.
It really does. Today, we're looking at a stack of sources that, well, on the surface, they seem to have absolutely no business being in the same room together.
Right. They're wildly different.
Yeah. So we have academic analyses of globally popular Korean dramas, specifically looking at massive hits like Crash Landing on You. Then we've got literary critiques of Leo Tolstoy's 19th century epic War and Peace.
Right.
And rounding it all out, we have the highly technical, incredibly dense documentation of the Bridge360 Metatheory Model.
Which is essentially a philosophical and mathematical framework.
Right.
It's designed for complex systems governance, specifically targeting how AI manages chaotic environments.
Right. So it is heavy material.
Very heavy.
But the mission of this deep dive is to uncover the hidden structural thread connecting all three of these things.
Yeah.
I mean, 19th century Russian literature, modern K-dramas, and advanced entropy management metatheory.
It's quite the list.
It is. Ultimately, we are going to determine how unique the Bridge360 model actually is when we hold it up against the mirror of human storytelling.
It's a fascinating juxtaposition because you have art.
Yeah.
Like how humans have instinctively told stories about survival for centuries, placed right next to a formal, truth-neutral governance algorithm.
Right.
And when you look closely at the underlying architecture of both, the similarities are staggering.
So let's start by establishing the narrative geometry of our two literary sources.
Okay.
Because I really want to understand the baseline before we introduce the complex systems math.
Sure.
Why do global audiences respond to a Korean telenovela the exact same way a literary scholar responds to War and Peace?
Well, it starts with how both formats treat the concept of the family. If you look at highly individualized Western storytelling, the family is usually just background scenery.
Right, like the hero's origin story.
Exactly. It's the starting line that the hero leaves behind to go on their solo journey.
Yeah.
But in Tolstoy and in K-dramas, family operates as a causal system. It is a transmission network.
Like a power grid, where one downed line causes a blackout 3 towns over.
That's a great way to picture it.
Yeah.
Think about the Rostovs or the Bolkonskis in War and Peace, or the ultra-wealthy Chaebol families that totally dominate K-drama narratives.
Oh, right.
A decision made by one individual doesn't just isolate to them. It instantly reorganizes the obligations, the social standing, and the wealth of the entire family network.
Wow, okay, yeah.
If a character makes a secret marriage or, suffers financial ruin, that consequence is transmitted right through the family corridor.
Okay, let's unpack this. It sounds like the characters in these stories are essentially pinballs.
Okay, I like that.
And the pinball is a massive disruption, like a war breaking out or a paragliding accident.
Right.
And it bounces through the bumpers of social class and family obligations, revealing the true nature of the characters based on how they react to the friction of those bumpers.
Yeah, but I'd take that analogy one step further.
Okay.
It's not just revealing their nature. The friction is actively reshaping them.
Oh, interesting.
The sources call this the extraordinary crashing into the ordinary.
Okay.
In Tolstoy, that massive external perturbation is Napoleon's invasion of Russia.
Right.
Which completely shatters the stable social world of the Russian aristocracy.
Yeah.
And in a K-drama, it's a sudden corporate hostile takeover or, that literal paragliding accident.
And when that ordinary life gets shattered, that's when the mask comes off. The sources actually use the phrase suffering as disclosure.
Exactly. Because crisis strips away a character's prior self-conception.
Right.
In these massive epics, romance and suffering aren't just plot devices to keep viewers tuning in.
Yeah, they're not just for drama.
No, they are instruments of character transformation. When Pierre in War and Peace is taken prisoner by the French, or when a K-drama protagonist loses their corporate status and has to survive with nothing.
They have to totally rebuild.
Right. They don't just learn a new fact about the world. Their entire value system is fundamentally reorganized.
Wow.
Suffering is the crucible that forces them to revise how they interpret reality.
And they never get what they want right away. Like, the narrative stretches out the resolution, forcing these characters into these seemingly endless love triangles or missed connections.
Which academics refer to as delayed gratification.
Right.
But functionally, it serves a critical structural purpose.
So?
Well, Meaningful relationships in these genres rarely proceed directly to fulfillment because the narrative needs time to test multiple relational networks.
Oh, I see.
It has to find a sustainable configuration.
Like Natasha in War and Peace, bouncing from Boris to Andre, then Anatole, and finally to Pierre.
The story is literally mapping the network.
Wow.
It's testing which social and emotional configuration can actually survive the chaos of wartime Russia.
Right.
The audience stays engaged because they are watching a complex system try to find a new equilibrium after a massive shock.
Okay, so if Tolstoy and K-dramas are showing us the symptoms of how humans survive chaos, how exactly does a modern systems engineer diagnose the underlying disease? Because that's where Bridge360's math steps in, right?
Yes. It provides the actual mathematical and philosophical vocabulary for that exact process.
Okay.
To see how, we have to define what Bridge360 version 20.6 is actually trying to achieve.
Which is?
It's a meta-theory that explicitly shifts away from classical truth-seeking, and it moves toward an entropy attractor paradigm.
Wait, let me wrestle with that for a second. Entropy is a measure of disorder or chaos.
Right.
And an attractor pulls things toward it. Are you saying the system actively wants to pull chaos toward itself? Because that sounds like a terrible way to manage an AI or any complex system.
It's not pulling chaos in just for the sake of it. It's about recognizing that in a highly complex world, chaos is inevitable.
Right.
Classical intelligence paradigms assume the goal of a system is to find the absolute truth, like a perfect, static representation of reality.
Right. Find the right answer.
Exactly. But Bridge360 says that in a chaotic environment, finding absolute truth is computationally intractable.
So it's impossible.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
So instead, the goal is simply navigability.
Okay. So it's about managing the chaos you can't avoid.
Precisely. You manage the entropy by keeping it within a stable, survivable corridor.
Okay.
The model calls this safe zone the epsilon spine. It's kind of like putting guardrails on a bowling lane.
Okay. Yeah.
The ball might bounce violently from side to side.
Which is the chaos.
That's the chaos. But as long as it stays within the epsilon spine, the system survives.
So it's not about being perfectly right. It's about making sure the car hits a row of the safety barrels instead of a concrete wall.
That's a much better way to put it.
Huh.
And when we map the resonances between this complex systems math in our stories, the parallels are wild.
Oh, I bet.
Remember those private family transmission networks we discussed?
Yeah.
In Bridge360, that perfectly mirrors their spine/corridor logic. Families act as nodes propagating entropy.
Right. So if a K-drama character stabilizes their own life by secretly paying off a blackmailer using company funds, they haven't actually eliminated the chaos.
No, not at all.
They've just externalized that disorder to another part of the network, which is the family business.
Exactly. They've propagated the entropy down the corridor.
Wow.
Now, what about suffering as disclosure? In Bridge360, that maps directly to what they call a selective friction tripwire.
What is that in practical terms? It sounds like a booby trap.
Think of it like chaos engineering in software development.
Okay.
Companies like Netflix intentionally inject malware or shut down their own servers just to see how the system reacts.
Wait, on purpose?
On purpose.
Yeah.
A perfectly smooth, quiet system hides its own fragility. You have no idea where the weak points are until they're stressed.
Oh, that makes sense.
It takes pressure or a mathematical perturbation to reveal where the system leaks or how it adapts.
That makes total sense. It's like an immune system. You don't know if you have the antibodies until you're actually exposed to the virus.
Exactly.
And what about the delayed gratification we talked about? The love triangles. How does math explain a soap opera romance?
For Bridge360 calls that a thermodynamic bet window.
A thermodynamic bet window. That is quite the term.
I know, right? It describes a period of controlled instability where multiple futures remain viable.
Okay.
The system, or the protagonist, delays permanent commitment until enough constraints and weak signals accumulate to make a safe choice.
Oh, I see.
In a chaotic environment, if you commit too early before you have enough data, you risk total system failure. You have to wait for the system to reveal its new rules.
So the love triangle is actually a mathematical holding pattern while the system gathers data on survivability.
Functionally, yes.
That is wild.
And the characters themselves, the ones transforming through suffering, they are engaged in adaptive entropy management.
Right.
When their old models of reality fail, when the war hits or the bankruptcy happens, they aren't just learning a new fact. They're completely revising their inference architecture.
Meaning what, exactly?
They change the very rules by which they process information and make decisions.
Which means characters in these stories aren't seeking ultimate objective truth. They're seeking what Bridge360 calls weak convergence.
Yes. Finding just enough stability to continue operating and resume an ordinary life after a catastrophe.
Right.
It's not about finding a metaphysically perfect ending. It's about finding a workable arrangement to just keep going.
This brings us to a massive macro-level connection between all three sources, and it has to do with power, control, and the illusion of centralized authority.
Right, the concept of retrospective causal neatness.
Yes. Tolstoy famously hated great man history. He completely rejected the idea that Napoleon, sitting in a tent with a map, was actually controlling the historical outcomes of the war.
Tolstoy viewed war as the chaotic collision of thousands of local actions, accidents, miscommunications, and environmental conditions.
Right.
And we see this mirrored in K-dramas all the time. Formal authority almost never equals actual control.
Oh, totally.
You have these terrifying corporate chairmen or military generals who bark orders, but they are constantly blindsided by the emergent chaotic actions of the people beneath them.
And Bridge360 formalizes this exact dynamic as distributed causation.
Yes.
Outcomes in complex systems are the result of thousands of interacting local actions, constraints, timing, and feedback loops, not one centralized command.
But the human brain hates that level of complexity.
Obviously, yeah.
Which leads to a cognitive trap that Bridge360 identifies as mimetic compression.
Mimetic compression. Break that down for me.
So when a massive event happens, a battle is won, or a company goes under, the actual geometry of the system that caused it is too complex to hold in your working memory.
Sure.
So we compress the chaos into a neat linguistic story. We look back and say Napoleon's brilliant strategy won the day.
Right.
Or that CEO's ruthlessness destroyed the company. Bridge360 argues this is just a linguistic explanation acting as a compression layer.
We do this in our own lives all the time. Think about how we explain a career change or a bad breakup.
Oh, exactly.
We compress years of subtle micro-frictions, misunderstandings, and bad timing into a simple narrative like, my boss was toxic, or we just grew apart.
Right, we simplify the chaos into a neat story so we can sleep at night.
It's a survival mechanism. But Tolstoy was implicitly warning his readers about trusting that retrospective causal neatness. We want to believe someone is driving the bus.
Yeah.
But the reality is that the trajectory of the bus is being determined by the collective friction of the road, the weather, the passengers shifting their weight, and the wear on the tires.
That's spot on.
Okay, here's where I have to push back a little bit.
Okay, go for it.
If institutions and great men don't actually control anything, and causation is totally distributed, doesn't Bridge360's whole governance model essentially admit that we are all just flying blind? Like, if nobody is driving, why bother with the math at all?
It's not flying blind. It's recognizing bounded knowledge.
Okay.
Bridge360 replaces the impossible goal of perfect, centralized control with chaos navigation.
Navigating the chaos.
Yes. If you accept that you cannot dictate the exact trajectory of the system, your strategy shifts entirely. You stop trying to force the ball down a specific path, and you focus on maintaining the epsilon spine, the guardrails.
I see.
You monitor for leaks, you manage the entropy budgets, and you prepare for inevitable perturbations. It's a shift from dictation to navigation.
Which brings us to the ultimate question of this deep dive. With all these striking similarities to 19th century novels and modern soap operas, how unique is this Bridge360 Metatheory Model, really? Are they just slapping mathematical jargon onto the same ideas screenwriters and novelists have known for hundreds of years?
Well, to answer that, the sources point us to a companion document for Bridge360 focused on the philosophy of education.
All right.
It outlines a three-stage curricular spine for schools that maps perfectly to this complex systems math.
Right. The document outlines elementary school as a phase for semantic intake. High school is for inferential discipline. And college is for strategic navigation.
And we dig into that. Semantic intake is about absorbing raw information without distortion.
Okay.
It's teaching a child or a basic AI model to just ingest data cleanly.
Makes sense.
Inferential discipline in high school is learning logic, testing boundaries, and understanding the limits of reasoning. Then strategic navigation in college is applying that logic to highly chaotic, real-world systems without breaking down.
But as the sources note, this educational structure isn't new at all. It heavily mirrors the classical trivium from antiquity. Grammar, logic, and rhetoric.
Yes, exactly.
Like, grammar is semantic intake. Logic is inferential discipline. Rhetoric is strategic navigation.
Right.
It also mirrors modern critical thinking frameworks, like the Paul Elder model, which breaks thinking down into elements, standards, and intellectual traits.
So this tells us that Bridge 360 is not inventing new human behaviors. The raw materials of human resilience, the way we process information, and the way we navigate chaos have existed for centuries.
Yeah.
Tolstoy dramatized it, K-drama writers intuit it, classical educators structured schools around it.
So if the phenomenon itself isn't unique, what's the bottom line here? What does Bridge 360 actually bring to the table?
Bridge 360 is a structural convergence.
Okay.
What makes it highly unique is its architecture and formalization. It takes the deep narrative grammar of human survival and transforms it into a truth-neutral, measurable governance algorithm.
Right, because Tolstoy can show us Pierre's transformation, but he can't give a software developer an engineering manual for how to replicate it in an AI.
Exactly. And Bridge 360 does provide those tools. The sources mention things like K-budgets, fragility caps, Axiom 19 admissibility, and braid identities.
Let's unpack a few of those so they aren't just jargon. What's a fragility cap?
Think of a fragility cap like a circuit breaker in a house. The math dictates exactly how much chaos a specific node in a system can handle before it shuts down to save the rest of the grid.
Oh, clever. And Axiom 19 admissibility.
That is a filtering mechanism. It dictates what kind of chaotic data is allowed to enter the system's core logic before it corrupts the inference architecture.
And braid identities.
That refers to how multiple distinct narratives or data streams intertwine in a complex system. They influence each other, like characters in a love triangle,
Right.
but they maintain their distinct mathematical threads without collapsing into a single, homogenized mess.
Oh, wow.
Bridge 360 gives us a shared grammar so that an AI developer, a political scientist, and a systems engineer can all talk about system stability using the exact same mathematical geometry.
I see.
It takes the intuition of art and gives it the rigor of a governance protocol.
So why does mapping a K-drama to complex entropy math actually matter for the person listening to us today?
Because it gives you an incredibly powerful new lens for navigating your own life. When massive disruptions hit your career, your health, or your family, the classical mindset tells you that you are failing.
Yeah, that you're doing something wrong.
Right. You're failing to control your destiny, or you're failing to find the truth of the situation.
But through the Bridge 360 lens, you aren't failing. You are just experiencing an entropy spike.
A perturbation. And your goal in that moment isn't perfect resolution or absolute control. Your goal is simply navigating the chaos to find a new, sustainable, ordinary life.
You are looking for a weak convergence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It takes the immense pressure off being perfect and refocuses your energy on being resilient, adaptable, and staying within your own survivable corridor.
Give yourself a thermodynamic bet window to let the dust settle before you make a massive decision. I actually really appreciate that reframing.
Very practical.
Now, before we wrap up, there is one final provocative thought from the source material regarding artificial intelligence that we have to talk about.
Oh, yes. Let's do it.
It builds on everything we've just discussed, specifically regarding large language models.
Right. The concept of tokenized rules of inference as physical memes.
Yeah. The Bridge 360 sources propose that inside large language models, the AI systems we use every single day, the rules of logic and inference actually exist as physical, replicable structures.
Memes in the original biological sense of the word.
Right. And these LLMs operate on these exact same entropy attractor principles we've been talking about. They are just trying to find stable corridors of information amid massive amounts of chaotic data.
And if that's true, it raises a monumental question about how we achieve safe AI alignment.
How so?
Well, right now, the industry tries to teach AI by feeding it encyclopedias of dry moral truths and setting up rigid guardrails. But we've just established that humans don't actually operate on static truths.
No, not at all.
We operate on adaptive entropy management. We navigate chaos through relationships, suffering, and reconfiguration.
So the provocative thought is this. If LLMs are navigating chaos and weak signals just like humans do, could an artificial superintelligence actually learn more about safe human alignment by analyzing the relational dynamics of a Korean drama than by reading a textbook on ethics?
Wow.
If K-dramas and Tolstoy contain the ultimate stress-tested map of how humans survive entropy, maybe that is the core data the AI needs to truly understand us.
It suggests that our stories aren't just entertainment. They are our most advanced, compressed algorithms for survival.
Which brings us right back to where we started. We crave the blueprint. We want the clean, binary engineering schematic for our lives.
But when the massive disruption hits, when the paraglider goes off course, the blueprint is useless.
Exactly. The terrain is chaotic, the causal connections are messy, and you are never going to have perfect control.
But that doesn't mean we're flying blind.
Whether you are Pierre Bezukhov in 1812, a billionaire heiress dropped behind enemy lines, or a machine learning model trying to stabilize its neural weights, we are all just navigating the chaos, looking for that next moment of ordinary peace.